Council chambers. Sorry about that. Would you like me to reopen? Yes, please. You would. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the regular meeting of Osoyoos Town Council, Tuesday, July the 2nd, 2013, at 2 o'clock p.m. in Council Chambers. First item up would be the adoption of some minutes, and we are looking at Committee of the Whole minutes from June the 17th, regular open minutes from June the 17th, and annual general meeting minutes from June 17th, 2013. Any changes, deletions, additions, comments? Hearing none, they will be adopted by consensus. No business arising from the minutes. Introduction of late items. We have 2 items today. The first would be a request for a letter of support from the Osoyoos Seniors Centre, and that will appear under correspondence late item 1. And the second edition would be tender results and recommendations, reclaimed water irrigation system expansion at Desert Park. That will appear as business 9, late item business 9, and will be presented by CAO Romanko. May I have a motion to adopt the adjusted agenda? Ryan and Rhodes discussion, all in favor? That has been carried, thank you. No delegations today. No water matters today. So we head into correspondence, and the late item, Osoyoos Seniors Centre Association request for a letter of support. Mr. Romanko, please.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. In front of you, you have a letter from the Osoyoos Seniors Centre, and they would like to apply for a New Horizons grant, and they would like to do some upgrades to their building, including some landscaping, new windows, a new carpet bowling set, and some new banquet and card tables. And as part of the grant application process, I'm assuming that the funders are looking for a letter of support from the town. So they're asking for this letter of support, and their application has to be submitted no later than July 5th.
Okay, thank you. Council, please. Councilor McCordoff.
Yes, thank you. I would like to move that we write a letter, ask Mr. Romanko to write a letter of support for this. I was down there the other day, and some of the people at the seniors were sort of showing us what might be done out there, and it's the front of the building, which is kind of messy, and they wanted to get it fixed up, and they would just like some support from us before they apply for this grant. No cost to us, is my understanding.
Great. Councilor Rhodes, seconder. Any further discussion on that? Pretty straightforward. All in favor? Letter's on its way. Next item would be under business, under bylaws. Report 2 on the form-based zoning approach to implement the Southeast Meadowlark area plan. Director Cunningham, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Council. On June 17th, staff introduced Council to an innovative new form-based zoning approach for implementing the Southeast Meadowlark, SEM, area plan. Staff is now submitting a bylaw amendment package for Council consideration of first reading to put the necessary components of the new approach into place. The SEM area plan was prepared in-house and adopted by Council in 2010 as Schedule C to our OCP. Plan Figure 4 included at the end of this report shows the location of the 16-hectare block covered by the plan, our new fire hall site, and 9 hectares of vacant or underused parcels to be built out over time with 270 medium-density housing units. Most of the block is still in the ALR, but the Agricultural Land Commission has agreed in principle that lands can be released as needed as long as the proposed developments are consistent with area plan policies. 2 things the Commission will closely look for are best use of the land through reaching a residential target of about 30 dwelling units per developable hectare and sufficient inclusion of affordable housing. Our attached form-based zoning approach for Southeast Meadowlark capitalizes on fairly new powers added to the Local Government Act, allowing municipalities to apply intensive residential development, IRD, permit guidelines, which are more detailed and prescriptive than normal DEP guidelines. Under our form-based zoning approach, these guidelines are cross-referenced to a three-dimensional overall design concept appended to the SEM plan, showing options how the area could be developed, and to a new IRD zone allowing multiple types of low-rise, medium-density housing forms. Overview. Form-based zoning will meet the challenges of achieving our vision for Southeast Meadowlark as an inclusive and walkable neighborhood for diverse socioeconomic groups of young families with children, singles and couples, the option of aging in place, and mixed-income households, including a 15% set-aside for near-market affordable housing. The latter units, which may be purchased or rented at less than market rates, will be targeted to moderate-income working households and should nicely complement other efforts to sustain and expand our economy. Much of the housing will be of low-level ground entry design suitable for young families and others, and even apartment housing will be low-rise to retain a neighborhood feel. At the same time, however, built out of the area has to meet our medium-density target of 30 dwelling units per hectare. To balance these needs, appropriate and sometimes innovative housing forms will be encouraged, such as small lot single detached housing with optional carriage houses at the rear, small lot two-family housing with optional walkout basement suites, row housing with rear or shared parking, fourplexes, and apartment buildings up to 3 stories in height. Planning for such diverse low-rise housing forms sited relatively close to each other at medium densities poses some challenges, especially when different properties and developers are involved. Conventional zoning approaches are inadequate for these circumstances because they separate different housing types between zones and apply one-size-fits-all regulatory standards for each zone, such as minimum lot size, maximum yard setbacks and building height, etc. Even comprehensive development area, CDA zoning, which can cover multiple housing types, will not suffice because it is developer-driven and would not necessarily advance the town's proactive vision for the area. Our vision will be best achieved through a form-based zoning approach employing a combination of written and graphic design guidelines to shape the three-dimensional form of buildings under intervening private areas, streetscapes, and public spaces. The more predictable quality of urban design resulting from this approach will achieve a harmonious mixing together of different housing types located relatively close to each other. Quality urban design is also a critical for effectively marketing Southeast Meadowlark in today's challenging real estate market. This is especially important when affordable housing is factored in, because developers need assurance that they can recoup the reduced profit margin on these units with successful full market sales, while home buyers need assurance they are making a secure real estate investment. Sensitive design will also soften impacts on existing residents, especially around rent place. The form-based zoning approach was developed by the planning director working closely with the planning technician and architect Carla Di Stefano. Though this approach is now relatively commonplace across the United States, we are breaking fairly new ground in BC, and extensive research was undertaken from textbooks, professional articles, and municipal websites. The components of a form-based zoning approach are summarized as follows. A. Overall design concept. An overall design concept will be appended to the SEM plan, which translates the two-dimensional land use as shown in Plan Figure 4 into a three-dimensional vision that will serve as a reference for applying the intensive residential development permit guidelines. The concept is an abridged and condensed version of the architect's earlier presentation work shown at the open house for local residents and circulated to council. It creatively provides illustrative options for how 5 block precincts across the area could be built out, from which developers may choose one option, or mix and match different options, or create their own version. Since we need to amend our SEM plan to append the overall design concept, the opportunity will also be taken of making some housekeeping changes to the main body of the plan, shown by highlighting, to reflect our agreement with the Agricultural Land Commission on releasing lands from the ELR and how it will be implemented.
Director Cunningham, can we, when we get into the B part here, can we just sort of get into the meat of it? Looks like there's an awful lot of
Yes, we certainly
words
can.
there. That part, the second paragraph.
Well, I can just read the first
If
paragraph.
we can just sort of hit
Absolutely.
the high points for us, thank
The
you.
new IRDP guidelines will be added into the main part of our OCP. Staff prepared the preamble to the guidelines describing their purpose, requirements, justification, and application process, all in accordance with the Local Government Act. This is followed by general permit guidelines prepared mainly in-house and specific permit guidelines for individual housing types prepared mainly by the architect. Then C, intensive residential development IRD zone. The last component in the bylaw amendment package is to add a new IRD zone to our zoning bylaw listing all the diverse housing types which are permitted. Unlike our other zones, it does not specify any written development regulations of minimum lot size, maximum yard setbacks, and building height, etc., but instead simply cross-references the need to apply the RDPA guidelines from the OCP. Options. 1. Council give first reading to the OCP amendment bylaw number 1230213 for amending the Southeast Meadowlark plan. OCP amendment bylaw number 12313 for adding IRDP guidelines, and zoning amendment number 108-587-213 for adding a new IRD zone, and set dates for an open house with local residents on Tuesday, July 9th to 13th, and for a following public hearing on Tuesday, July 30th to 13th. Option 2, council requests revisions to the package before proceeding, or 3, not take any action. Impacts. A, community. Our proposed form-based zoning approach will achieve our vision for developing Southeast Meadowlark as an inclusive and walkable neighborhood, which includes a plurality of socioeconomic groups with diverse housing offerings. Budget. The federal government assisted with $16,250 of funding for architectural services. Organizational planning staff contributed considerably to designing the new approach and consequently have the competency to ensure successful implementation. And timelines. First application of the new approach will probably be development of our town-owned remainder Richter property south of the fire hall site, including an affordable housing component. Staff will soon be taking a negotiation package for affordable housing incentives to council, and following adoption of the bylaw amendment package, will be inviting expressions of interest from developers. Sustainability meets multiple success indicators in our integrated community sustainability plan for higher density residential developments to reduce sprawl, accessible and affordable housing, and attractive building design. Recommendations. Staff recommends option number 1.
Thank you, and a great report, and exciting that this is sort of breaking ground in British Columbia.
It is.
And I wasn't trying to cut you short, but
That's
there
okay.
was a
It's
lot
long
of
report.
there was a lot of technical bafflegab in there that I didn't know if we were all going to pick up on it, mostly me. So, Council, please, where are we going with this? Councillor Ryan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I would like to get us started by echoing your comments about the quality of the report, and also to put a motion that we accept the first option, which is that we give first reading to it today for Amendment Bylaw 1230-12-2013 for amending the Southeast Meadowlark Plan, and OCP Amendment Bylaw 1230-13-2013 for adding IRD PA guidelines, and Zoning Amendment Bylaw 1085.87-2013 for adding a new IRD zone, and set the dates for the open house for local residents on Tuesday the 9th of July and the following public hearing on Tuesday the 30th of July.
Great. And seconder, Councillor Rhodes, seconding that. Speaking to the motion.
I would just speak to it to say that this is not the first time council has seen it. We've seen it several times, and it's an excellent addition, I think, to our official community plan and to our planning guidelines, and gives a lot of does a lot of the work for the developers. I think it helps them to sort of choose from these various modules of housing types laid out with different options for the whole area up there. And I guess the only thing I think that maybe in the interest of time, I know that they'd like to clean this up by the end of this month, but I guess whether those dates are going to be the best, I guess is open to some discussion.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Rhodes, any comments on that?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay, I think it's, I'm really happy to see it moving ahead. I guess I have one question, and just, it's mostly for the public, but as we keep looking at trying to streamline our operations, this isn't going to have anything to do with changing process or anything. Probably, in fact, it's going to make it easier for them to have a few more tools in their toolbox. Is that how I'm to read this?
It's a good question, and I've done some research on that because I had some concerns that it could delay approval times, and apparently it's a mixed message. On the plus side, in all cases, developers benefit from knowing fully ahead of time what the municipality is looking for. They don't have to go through a guessing game of submitting sequential approvals till they hit the lucky one, which is satisfactory to everybody concerned, including council. And the second thing is that it makes way for a very good working relationship between developers and architects. Architects are quite commonly trying to do the right thing, cutting against the cost-cutting motivations of some developers. So it puts the architect on a far better footing with the developers, and I can assure you that we lose a lot of time in the application process because of that conflict that occurs between those two parties. So to avoid that, the only downsides that I ever read about was that it can take some time for staff to pick up on this new tool and be comfortable with it. In this particular case, we're not looking at something which was dropped on us by a consultant. Staff took considerable time and involvement in developing this approach, so we're going to get off to a running start from day one. We know how it works. We don't have to read the book how to do it. Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Great, thank you very much. Any other discussion, dialogue here? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thanks, Director Cunningham.
Thank you.
Next up would be under the business section of the agenda. There's a council meeting report for myself. I attended a couple meetings, one in Penticton, one in Oliver. They weren't actually meetings, they were events. One was the protocol agreement signing with the 3 Indian bands out of the 4 bands that I consider to be our neighbors and part of the regional district. And the other one was a bit of a ribbon cutting for Phase 2 at the Canyon Desert Housing Complex at the Canyon Desert Golf Course in Oliver. Chief Louis was there and a lot of other people there, kicking off another phase. And of course, we do a lot of partnering with the Osoyoos Indian Band. It was good to see that development going ahead. And going back to the protocol agreement in Penticton, that was very good to see. And Grand Chief Stuart Phillip was there and made some presentations. So it was all worthwhile. And anyway, I put in for a half-day chit for those events being out of town. So I guess we need a resolution for that. Councillor Ryan McCordoff. Discussion, all in favor, opposed. I sort of voted there. I guess I shouldn't, but if you don't vote, then it's still a positive vote. That's right. That's right. So thank you very much. The next business item would be a report on a development variance permit, DBP 1301. I believe Mr. Armstrong is going to handle this.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So as background, in October 2012, the golf club erected a billboard-type sign, but they have yet to place copy on the sign. It is located on the southern side of Highway 3 between Highway 97 and the Industrial Park. On December 19, 2012, the building inspector posted a cessation of work order on the Osoyoos Golf Club billboard sign because, 1, the lease agreement between the town and the golf club states the tenant shall not, without prior written consent of the landlord, clear land, excavate, construct a building or structures, or do any other development on the leased lands. A signboard of this size would be considered a structure. And the second reason is on Monday, December 18th, 2012, Council adopted the Town of Osoyoos sign bylaw. The bylaw prohibits signs of this size and nature. On January 2nd, 2013, Mr. Lease, the general manager of the golf club, attended a meeting with town staff, and they informed Mr. Sapach of his options. One was to remove the sign, and two was to submit a development variance permit application and refer to the attached council policy on considering development variance permits. Mr. Sapach was asked to submit the application by March 1st, and then this date was later extended to May 6th. On May 29th, Mr. Sapach sent a letter to Mayor Wells requesting support for the variance, but council did not consider the letter so as to not bias the variance process. On June 7th, Mr. Sapach formally applied for the variance, and a few days later, notices were mailed out to properties within 60 meters of the subject property. See attached notices, and all correspondence received is attached to this report. So as an overview, the Osoyoos Golf and Country Club is currently in the process of rebranding itself to the Osoyoos Golf Club in order to ensure the public feels free and feels and knows that they are welcome. As part of this rebranding effort, the Osoyoos Golf Club has paid the sum of $4,500 to install the structure and for the sign copy. For technical comments, the sign bylaw does not mention or define a billboard sign directly, but billboards are typically third-party or off-site signs, and these are prohibited. The sign would fall under the freestanding sign definition of the bylaw. The largest allowable freestanding sign is allowed in the shopping center zone and is 80 square feet of sign area with a maximum height of 21 feet. The golf club sign is 6 feet off the ground, and the sign area is 8 feet high by 24 feet long for a total of 192 square feet. The Parks and Rec zone is covered in the sign bylaw under local commercial, which allows for a 21 square foot sign. A sign of this size on their property would not be visible because of the large highway right-of-way. At this time, council should appraise the particulars of this application against the criteria in the attached council policy on considering development variance permits. The policy describes three main criteria: hardship, impacts, and viewpoints of neighbors. Specifically, under hardship, the policy states 1C, the hardship claimed by the applicant has not been created by some action of the owner or cannot be remedied reasonably by the owner in some other manner. And under impacts, the policy states 2C, substantially detract from the use and enjoyment of adjacent lands. 2E, result in adverse visual impacts. And 2F, potentially create an undesirable precedent for other properties. So the implications under community is the neighboring property owners at Casitas del Sol are adversely impacted by the visual appearance of the billboard sign. See picture to the right. There's also a picture that was received in the correspondence. It's at the very end of your package. And then second implication under community is the community may perceive this is setting a precedent for applying for more billboards within the town of Osoyoos boundaries. So options that staff prepared for council consideration is, number one, vary the town of Osoyoos sign bylaw, Part 5, Section 35, to allow a freestanding sign in the Parks and Recreational Zone that has a sign copy area of 17.83 meters squared and a maximum height of 4.5 meters on the golf club leased property. That's to allow the sign as is. Option 2, allow the sign as described in option 1, but for a fixed 3-year term, no renewal. This would be similar to the amortization agreements that the town will be entering into with owners of rooftop or animated signs, which are prohibited by the sign bylaw, and would provide the golf club an opportunity to complete its rebranding efforts. The neighbors to the east of Casitas del Sol would, however, have the visual impact. Number 3 is to reduce the sign copy area to 2 feet by 24 feet with a maximum height of 8.5 feet. This smaller sign could simply state Osoyoos Golf Club Public Welcome or something to that effect. This would meet the intent of the golf club's rebranding efforts, but also somewhat limit the adverse visual impacts on the neighboring properties. Option 4 is to not allow the sign. So staff recommends option 2 because it is a compromise that respects the integrity of the town's sign bylaw and affords some flexibility to the golf club for its rebranding campaign.
Great, thanks, thanks, Mr. Armstrong. Council's wishes. This is a bit of a bit of a tough one here, so Councillor Ryan, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Really, several questions, I guess. There is in the report some signed copy, picture with a golfer and phone number and so on. Is that in fact what they are proposing to put on there?
Yes.
Okay, well, it doesn't say the Osoyoos Golf Club anywhere. It says golf course, it says Osoyoos Golf and Country Club, and it didn't strike me as something that would rebrand you the way they want to. So that's just my comment on that. The other is that I really challenge the comparison with us trying to grandfather things that were pre-existing. This is, first of all, wasn't pre-existing because it was illegally put up. And secondly, it doesn't have a sign. It's just a billboard without a sign. So I don't really think that that is a valid comparison. It's not as if somebody had something on there for years or for a year or more, and suddenly we're changing the ground rules. So I really, it's a difficult one, but I honestly think that they're in breach of their lease, and I don't think the reasons that are given there. I mean, 3 maybe is a possibility, but when we look at the responses from the people who are there, we have nobody who's in favor of it. We have someone else who's a member of the golf course who said, I don't really agree with putting this up. And, I mean, I think from the point of view of message, it doesn't do what they're trying to do, in my judgment.
Councillor McCordoff.
Thank you. Yes, I noticed, I agree with Councillor Ryan on this, and I'm looking at the picture at the very end of the report of somebody's backyard looking out at the sign, and I can't say that I would be in agreement with looking at that day after day either. I just wondered, the letters at the end are all against this this sign, and I'm just wondering if we heard from anybody who was pro the sign. No, we didn't. Thank you.
Any further discussion from council? I guess my impression and understanding, and I'm looking at what the sign was going to be or is, with the public welcome on their 36-hole championship golf course. I thought the sign was made. I thought the skin was made but not installed. So the sign is made and paid for. That's correct. Okay. Just in case people thought that they hadn't ordered the skin yet, the skin is made but hadn't been installed in that short window of becoming a foul of the new bylaws. Anything else from council? That we probably need a resolution then from somebody. Councillor McCordoff?
Thank you. Could I ask another question? I definitely see that there's a problem of the people looking out at their backyard at this. Is there any way that the adjustments could be made and the sign be put in a slightly different location where it's not blocking someone's view?
The problem with the terrain there, let's say, is that their property ends and then there's a steep embankment down to the highway. So the only way to locate the sign somewhere where it wouldn't cause a visual impact for the neighboring properties would be on the highway right-of-way.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Armstrong, I'm a little bit familiar with that because you can get onto the irrigation trail walkway there, sort of at the high side. The low station is closer to town with the underpass. But there's that road that goes into the gate, and that allows access to one of the dirt roads. We probably use it occasionally. Now, if the sign was over in that area, that has already dropped down. That would remove the visual that would remove the visual for the folks there. And yeah, I understand there's a financial cost, but it would do two things. It would remove the objection of the folks at Casitas del Sol, and it would allow the golf course to attempt to achieve their objective of public golf course, 18 holes, welcoming, and that. And I think the sign, as I see it, looks attractive, but I do have trouble with the location of it. So is that a possibility that?
That's the highway right-of-way, so we would have to probably consult with the Ministry of Highways.
But I'm talking inside the fence. Inside the fence, I would consider to be golf course property, and it does drop down there.
Yeah, I don't think that's golf course property where it would be visual from the highway, but yeah. Yeah, I don't think that would be visible without going down onto the highway right away.
Okay. Well, I'll be driving up there at
Yeah.
4 o'clock today to have a look at it.
Yeah, well, perfect. We can come back to council and double check that if it can be placed elsewhere on their property and still be visible.
Okay, well, let's just continue where we are. We'll see where this is going here. Councillor Plump, please.
I just want to follow up with what you're saying, Mayor Wells. Yes, I look at the picture at the bottom and see, looking out a backyard, that that sign maybe shouldn't be there. But I'm always, the golf course is a big driver in this community. We have a lot of people that use that. If we can drive people up there, that's the other thing we want to do. So I'm more for, yes, I may not like this location, but I certainly would like to go back with some options that are, where can we relocate this? I don't know if making that slightly smaller is the most effective way to get across what they're trying to do and what we want to do with removing this sign. But we have to go with options. The sign bylaw, and we've done a really good job, I think, with some of the folks that we've had issues with regarding signs, that we've come up with options that just, make it fit within what we're trying to do. And we've been really receptive to giving them different types of feedback. And again, it's the golf course. It is something that's very important to this community. I'd love to see us come with some options that, again, we can sit and talk to them at the table.
Councillor Ryan.
Yes, thank you. I agree with Councillor Plant, and I think we have been very resourceful in dealing with some of these things. So I would like to suggest that we defer this to our next meeting and ask staff to consult with the golf course manager. I was a little surprised that no one from the golf course was here. But I think the other thing that we can carry back to them is not only a new location and perhaps a different size sign, but also to let them know that we are working with the Highways Department to come up with a whole new type of entry to our community signage. And certainly the golf course would be prominent in that. And I'm not sure that they considered that, but I'd like to have more dialogue, and I think to put all the options on the table, and that would, I think, is a significant one.
And that sort of brings forth two questions. One would be, wow, we're going to lose the season sort of thing, that time frame if we come back in 2 weeks. But the other side of that is we haven't had it in they're celebrating their 40th anniversary on July the 12th. So they haven't had it for 40 years and got this far. So there's is it going to be 2 weeks more? Is it the 40 years? And I can appreciate some angst there. I can also appreciate some angst that you may have to, because I believe it's, I haven't gone right up to the sign, but I believe it was concreted in posts and things like that. But that's just the nature of the beast. If there's going to be a little bit of pain and we can find a compromise, I think that's what we should be looking at. So is that a?
So I didn't make a motion to refer to our next meeting. So I need a seconder if anyone.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on that? That works for council? All in favor? See you in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
We have next item would be a report on the advisory design panel. Mr. Romanko, please. No?
It was handled this morning. It was incorrectly included in the package for this afternoon's meeting, and instead you dealt with it properly under the closed meeting.
Well, we can bring that information to the table at this point in time.
We did release it. We also thank you, Mr. Cunningham. You may have left. We did bring the motion to bring it out of in camera to make it public document for this afternoon.
Let's take it out of
Mr. Romanko, please.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. Yes, the purpose of this report is just to bring forward the council's, and not the endorsement, but the public information that the advisory design panel members were approved by council at an earlier in-camera meeting. This report was placed on the regular agenda in mistake. The council usually deals with these matters as simply like a labor employee type of relationship, so they're done in camera. As a result of the discussions and subsequent motion, the Roger Horton, Julie Hamilton, Bob Stubbs, and Herb Wycherley were appointed as members of the advisory design panel.
Thank you. And do we need this? That was done by resolution, wasn't it?
That was done by resolution, and there was also a resolution to bring that out of in camera.
Right. So all we're saying now is congratulations to those 4 individuals for coming forward and being a part of that advisory design panel. We always like volunteers. There's some good skill and some people long associated with the town, and they will look at form and character for some of our new buildings. Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd also like to acknowledge Councillor McCordoff as being the council representative, as Councillor Ryan as being the alternate to that as well. You know, it's a great group of people. I think we've done really well. We're so fortunate, and I think with that interaction with Councillor McCordoff, this is going to serve its purpose very, very well in our community.
Thank you. So the next item then would be a borrowing report from Mr. Romanko, the director, coming from the Director of Financial Services, Mr. Zacco. Cottonwood Drive, Highway 3, please.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. The reconstruction of Cottonwood Drive from Highway 3 to the remainder of Lot 1 Plan 46437 is in the 5-year financial plan to be completed in the fall of 2013. This project has been budgeted at $409,000, with funds coming from road DCs $102,250, reserves $19,500, and borrowing $287,250. This project will be tendered in early fall, with construction to begin right after the Labor Day long weekend. The loan authorization bylaw 1290-2012 received the following approvals before council adopted this bylaw on October 15, 2012, which included the Inspector of Municipalities approval on May 29, 2012, and approval of the electors through the alternative approval process on October 1, 2012. This bylaw allows the town to borrow the $287,250 over 20 years for the Cottonwood Road reconstruction project. The town issues their long-term debt financing through the regional district as per section 182 of the community charter, who in turn borrows from the municipal finance authority. A resolution from council requesting consent of the borrowing needs to be made to the regional district and is shown in option 1. At this present time, there are no funds available for council to consider option 2. For the borrowing to be included in this fall debenture issue or debit issue, the regional district has to have their security issuing certificate of approval application to the ministry by August 16, 2013. So in terms of overall implications, we have the community will have an improved road infrastructure. Certainly that particular area of town takes a lot of pedestrian traffic, and that this project includes new sidewalks for the area. The budget is $490,000, which includes $287,250 in borrowing. We have a number of dates that I mentioned earlier that where we had all the approvals were put in place. Tendering for the project will be in August of 2013. Construction September 3rd, 2013. Completion 2013. Improved town infrastructure, and the option as presented, the council approved borrowing from the Municipal Finance Authority of BC as part of the fall borrowing session, $287,250 as authorized through loan authorization bylaw number 1290/2012, and that the regional district of Okanagan-Similkameen be requested to consent to our borrowing over a 20-year term and include in their borrowing in their security issue of bylaw. The second option as presented, to utilize funds from other long-term borrowing to pay for the $287,250 balance, with the recommendation being number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Romanko. And so, as I look at that information, we never did have the money, but it was on our wish list, but we didn't have the funding for it, and went to the alternate approval process.
That's right. It was. It's a small borrowing for the community. Our debt is very, very low. It's an important project to fix that particular Cottonwood Drive area, and that's why it went through to the borrowing process.
Yeah, it's a strong public safety issue there.
That's right.
That's for sure. There's an awful lot of people in that small corridor between the Sage Pub and the highway in there, and there's no curb, sidewalks, gutters. There's nothing. So I just wanted to say that this has gone through the alternate approval process.
That's right.
They're doing the mechanics now to get the money.
Well, yeah, we just have to, again, go through the extra step of going through the regional district.
Okay. Councillor Ryan?
Yes, I will move that we adopt option number 1.
Thank you. And that seconder, Councillor McCordoff. Any further discussion? Councillor Ryan.
Thank you. I just had a question for Mr. Romanko, and that is the path through the regional district to borrow is because of the duration of the loan?
No, all municipal borrowing has to go through a regional district.
All borrowing, even okay. When we do our leases, for example, on vehicles and so on, is that different or?
No, well, anything that goes through the municipal finance.
Oh, it has to go through the.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, good.
Another step.
Another step, yeah.
Anything else? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. We will be. Well, I'm sure we'll get the money, and then we can begin with the project. Another report here on updating the town of Osoyoos lease with the Osoyoos Golf Course. It was a report from our Corporate Services Director, Jeanette Van Vienen, presented by Mr. Romanko, please.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. The town has leased lands to the Osoyoos Golf and Country Club for several years, dating back at least to 1971. The lease rate has been $1 per year, and the golf course is exempt from taxation. The lease was redrafted and agreed to by parties for 5 years with 5 options for renewal for 5 years each beginning September 1st, 2008, with the first term ending August 31st, 2013. There have been no changes in the lease terms, and the golf course advising us they wish to renew their lease under the same terms and the condition. There's one slight change that does not affect the terms, and that is the name of the Osoyoos Golf and Country Club. They have officially changed their legal business name to Osoyoos Golf Club, and that should be reflected in the renewal. Besides this, all that is required is for both parties to agree to the lease renewal for an additional 5-year term ending August 31st, 2018. And there's no real impact for us. And the options that have been presented are that the lease be between the town and the Osoyoos Golf Club be renewed for an additional 5-year term ending August 31st, 2018, and the second, that the lease between the town and the Osoyoos Golf Club not be renewed, with our staff recommending option number 1.
Okay, thank you. Councilor McCordoff.
Yes, thank you. I just had a question for Mr. Romanko. I'm just wondering if there was any reason for changing the name of the golf club. Was it to effectively say that it was a public course rather than private? Mm-hmm. Is that the reason?
Yes, there's something out there. I ran into it once in the United States. I could golf at a golf club. I could golf at a golf and country club down there, but I had to be from a golf and country club. Oh. And at the time I was a member of Fairview and Oliver, that was just Fairview Golf Club. I wasn't a member of a golf and country club, so I couldn't play at the one in Washington State. I don't understand it all for sure, but I think what they're indicating is going back to what the sign was showing earlier, that they're trying to look for attracting more golfers who think that it's going to be a public course, a full open public course. Please come and golf. So I think that's the reason for that name change. There's something attached to the golf and country club.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that was clear before me. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Councilor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd be happy to make the motion based on option number 1 with the wording that's in there, and just a quick question after that.
Okay, thank you. And seconder, Councilor Plant. Councilor Rhodes, please.
Thanks. Often with these rebranding, there comes, hand in hand with that some restructuring. Are we aware of any restructuring in the organization that might affect the lease agreement, or?
Not that I'm aware of. I think it's just a rebranding to get more people potentially in the club.
Okay. Anything else? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. We will be re-signing that agreement. I'm just going to break protocol for a minute here. I just had this vision. I saw somebody walking by. I have a small piece of window I can see through. Just saw somebody walking by with their tax notice. At this point, you have an hour and 15 minutes to pay your property taxes this year. And I know not everyone's going to be watching this on TV, but if you know of anyone that may have forgotten or may not or may be extra slow, I'm always hoping for the year that we don't have the appeals because they were late. That would just be so wonderful, because there's a penalty and there's homeowner grants and there's quite a bit of things happen if you don't. So they have an hour and 10 minutes, or actually they have a little bit more than that. We'll give them an hour and 10 minutes because there's a safety factor there. I'm not going to be on TV and make a mistake. So they have an hour and 10 minutes to pay their taxes in person over the counter, and if they miss that, they could hit it in the town slot. We collect the mail tonight at midnight. And that's when we take the mail out of the slot, and that is the end of July the 2nd, and nothing, if it's not in our hand by then, you will be in the 10% penalty, and you will be playing with your homeowner grant. So please, if you know anybody, phone them up, drive over and see them, get them to pay their taxes if they are of that susceptible nature. Some people have a hard time. It was a busy day at the front counter today. So taxes, please, folks. Thanks a lot. And the next is a sewer report servicing of the Butula property. Mr. Romanko, please.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. The attached letter from Ernie and Donna Butula provides background on the sewer service application that dates back to 2010. Initially, the application was refused because the property locations outside the town boundaries and the lack of information on appropriate servicing of the property. A strategy to service the property and approximate costs of service have been identified. However, Council passed a moratorium on extraterritorial sewer servicing until the completion of the sewer capacity study. Mr. Butula was informed of Council's decision and is appealing that his request for services should be considered because of the timing of his application. For purposes of economics, Mr. Butula is currently communicating with his 3 neighbors to determine their interest in sharing the cost of developing the sewer line. The request for sewer would be a maximum of 4 units, with the potential only for Mr. Butula's property if he decides to pay for the line from the property to 92nd Avenue. Mr. Butula proceeds if Mr. Butula proceeds with putting the line in himself, the town could assess a latecomer fee to the additional properties because the Elks property right-of-way is in the town. The request for a proposal for the sewer capacity study is currently being advertised on BC Bid with a closing date of July 18th. The target date for draft report is December 18th, with council decision on making future extraterritorial servicing for the end of January 2014. In terms of implications, additional sewer users to our system with no capital costs. The options as presented are the council continues with the moratorium on extraterritorial sewer servicing until the completion of the sewer capacity study. Council allows one additional unit to the Butula property, and 3, council allows a maximum of 4 units of extraterritorial sewer. Administration recommends option 3. We have been in discussion with Mr. Butula for over 2 years. The impacts of 4 units on our system would be insignificant, and the potential for only 1 service is a reality. Again, we've been working to try and get some costing in that on the services, and we finally got them this fall. But again, Mr. Butula was out of town, and we made some assumptions that given the costs that were there, nobody was going to proceed. So that's what we're bringing to council.
Okay, thank you. I guess I have a question of the report. Would that trigger a subdivision? Would that make the lot, subdividable, and then there's 2 services or anything like that, or?
Well, we would do an agreement for only one service, because that's all we've been talking about.
That's all we're talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
And it would be similar to the Northwest Sewer, where it was for existing rather than for new. Is that? Yeah,
my understanding is there's 1 residential unit on the property, and that's what we would make the agreement for. We would have to determine a capacity charge on that, plus the cost of actually servicing, because Mr. Butula's property is right next to the Elks.
Right.
Basically, there's the cost of putting the line along the back part of the Elks that he would be responsible for.
Okay, and I think when we look at that, and that goes into that whole 92nd Street town expansion boundary, and the well number 6 or the well number 7 that was contaminated, and I think, although the Butula property is a long way from the lake, when it's on a gravel pit that was mined there for 20 years, and we know how fast all that sewage was going into the lake and was contaminating that well, and when it got sewered, it just cleaned right up. So I think in this instance, it certainly has a reason and a cause. Councillor Rhodes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to make the motion based on the recommendation of option number 3.
Option number 3, which council allows a maximum of 4 units of extraterritorial water. Okay. And that seconder, please. Councillor Plant. Any discussion? Councillor Rhodes, please.
Often when these reports come your way and followed closely by us putting our foot down and saying no more capacity increases of any kind, along comes a situation where it has a potential to convince you otherwise. I know that Butulas have been here, I think, a couple of times already, and for one reason or another, they still do not have a sewer hookup. And I'm feeling a little conflicted over the whole thing, although I am speaking in favor of the motion. Only for one reason. I have a memory of your last visit here, and I think there was some leaching that was occurring down into that gravel pit area down there. I don't think we ever determined where it was coming from or why it was there. But I have a suspicion that it may be related to the problem that we're trying to solve here, and And I certainly would speak in favor because of that and for that reason only.
Councilor McCordoff.
Thank you. I'm going to disagree, and for a couple of reasons. One, I think we would be opening a can of worms here. We have just gone through quite recently an issue with allowing extraterritorial sewer servicing, and we were quite adamant that we would not allow any more until the sewer capacity study was done. I certainly understand the Butula's concerns, but it looks to me like if we can look at the report that we have, that the closing date is in July, and that the report should be within 6 months. And I'm just thinking that it would make more sense to me that we wait for another 6 months to see what our capacity is before allowing this. That's just my gut feeling.
Councilor Ryan.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I agree with Councilor McCordoff. I don't think 6 months is a long time, and clearly, you know, I mean, I'm sympathetic to the Butula's situation and their desire to be on the sewer. I mean, that's a good thing, but I don't think it's a long time. I think it is important to me. Mr. Romenko said we need to decide what a capacity charge is. Well, I mean, we know that that's going to come out of our capacity study, that we will be able to assign values to these things based on what the study finds. At least that's certainly my expectation and my hope. And I have I think etched in my memory, Council passing numerous resolutions during this Northwest Sewer implementation, and we were constantly having to, you know, have new things come before us saying, oh, well, this is a little different, and even though we said no more, you know, this is different. So, you know, for me, I'm sympathetic, but I think that a wait of 6 months is not going to be the end of the world, and hopefully they will be willing to do it at that time, just as they are now.
Okay. Do you have any comments, Councilor Plant?
I guess I would just, speaking to the motion, I also was somewhat interested in this because of the same reason CJ Rhodes was talking about. There's more of an environmental issue that I felt that was there, that we went through a couple of different times with them. So that's the reason that I am in favor of it. This isn't a new development, but it is, there are some concerns there, you know, from some of the past issues and studies that had happened in that area, and so that's kind of why I've decided that this might be it's time to look after that system, that area, for safety concerns, versus it's not, you know, a development state. So
I just have so much empathy for the Butulas, but with our capacity charge out there, I really want to see that happen. I just can't do it. I can't vote for that. We have the issue coming before us right up in the same meeting. Mr. Nairn is coming back. We're having capacity issues out there. We're having some spray issues out there with the guns. I think council has the same emotion. We're just coming up with two different ways to go through this. We all wish that this could happen. You know, I could put up my hand and say, yes, let it happen, but council has to have some integrity here. We said no more extraterritorial, and we'll have the study done in 6 months, and I just think we have to do that, having said no more. I just think council has to have that no more position, and my heart is with the process, but the bigger common good says we just would look very, 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 very weak if we rolled over on this right now. So, any other discussion on that, Councillor Rhodes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to you know, mention the environmental aspects and the importance of us paying attention to these types of situations, because they often move our decision-making process to another level that sometimes requires consideration by us. I don't know what kind of comparison to make, but